The infamous Fokker 190 Dora series. Aircraft that I've honestly never really cared too much about. I have done a video on the Fokker 190 D14 long time ago, it must have been close to a year now. And I straight up admitted it. I could not fly the Fokker 190 Doras, I just simply couldn't, they will not fit in my playstyle. And of course back in the day you were constantly facing off against Griffin Spacefires, and to be completely honest with you, a Fokker 190 D series against a Spacefire is going to have some trouble, especially this particular one we're looking at today, which is the Fokker 190 D-9. Well, a lot has changed since then, not to mention flight model upgrades which makes this thing fly less like a brick now. It also got down tiered from 5.7 to 5.3 battle rating in realistic mode, whilst the Mark 24 Spacefire has gotten up to 6.7, which means that this thing can no longer face Mark 24s. And that actually makes a huge difference. Not only that, being now at 5.3, it also has the chance to get into the 4.3 sweet spot, where the Fokker 190 G2 are, where the TAR 154, the AT219 are, and, well, where essentially a lot of the German main forces are. This is kind of the battle rating where the most German players play at, because the G2 is just kind of the sweet spot. Given that the Fokker 190 D9 is now 5.3, it can actually get down tiered quite a lot, and in the down tier, this thing is extremely powerful. I didn't even say hello. Hello you sexy beasts, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to do something we haven't done in a while, which is taking a look at an aircraft. There aren't going to be many stats to be thrown around, just the basic stats that you need to know about the aircraft, but I'm going to go off more on my own experience and show you some gameplay in the background. The gameplay in the background is, well, just a collection of random montages of clips that I had. Nothing too special, although there is one long battle that has been one of the best dogfights I've had in this game in a long time. It kind of exemplifies what this thing is capable of. So, the Fokker 190 D9 is a rank 4 German fighter at battle rating 5.3 in realistic mode, as we've said before. It comes equipped with two 20mm MG151s carrying 500 rounds of ammunition and an additional two 13mm MG131s with 900 rounds of ammunition. You aren't really going to kill much with the machine guns. The German 13mm isn't really all that powerful, but it's a nice thing to back up to when you run out of cannon ammunition. Which doesn't happen all that much. With 500 rounds of ammunition in these cannons, you have a lot to shoot for before you run out. Now the strengths of the Fokker 190 D9, or the D series in general, definitely do not lie with its turning ability. Whilst the aircraft is extremely powerful, it is a very powerful engine and as such has a very good climb rate and top speed as well, reaching up to 710 km/h at 4,800 meters according to the stat card, which is, well, pretty much the only stat you can actually trust in the stat card. And its own battle rating, this thing is very fast, one of the fastest aircraft out there. In fact, speed is your key when you're facing off against Spitfires, for example. You can outrun most Spitfires. They might have better acceleration than you at low altitudes and low speeds, but at high altitudes and high speeds, when you don't have to, well, accelerate, you are going to outrun most of your opponents. Not only that, this aircraft also has one of the best roll rates in the game. Now, to be completely honest with you, my playstyle doesn't usually fit with the Fokker 190, I've said this before. I like aircraft that can turn as well, because having all this speed and then having a brick that can't pull its nose up doesn't really benefit a playstyle like mine, where I like to have my guns on target behind the enemy for some time. I like to be behind the enemy, not in front of him, not on top of him, I like to be behind him. Rawr. And the Fokker 190 up until now didn't really play to that playstyle. Now, however, and by no means saying that this thing is a turn fighter, it can actually dogfight if you use it correctly. I found that the roll rate is really handy in evading enemy fire when they are behind you, especially Spitfires. Since the guns on the Spitfires are mounted on the wings and such have accuracy problems and convergence problems, As long as you use proper throttle control, as long as you have some altitude left over that you can convert into speed by going into a dive, know when to pull out of the dive as to not lose too much altitude and have the speed advantage to run away with them, and especially if you have some teammates nearby. This thing is a force to be reckoned with at this battle ring, I have to say. Even when it gets up to 6.3, where I've faced Bearcats and I've faced the earlier Griffin and Spitfires, this thing is still very capable if you know what you are doing. Rolling around, evading enemy fire, again Spitfires with the guns mounted on the wings, Bearcats to some extent as well. The Bearcats will catch you in a dive, so keep an eye out for that. Bearcats are a little bit more tricky to fight in my opinion, at least in this aircraft. Against a position that has guns mounted in the wings, it's really useful to have that roll rate where you can simply evade enemy fire. Now, by yourself you're going to have some problems engaging enemies, especially if there are multiple enemies inbound on your position at the same time. Say you're facing off against 2 Spitfires, yes, you cannot run them, but it's going to be tough to actually get targets on them. This is an aircraft that by itself can survive in the hands of a decent pilot. Not saying that I am a decent pilot, well, I would consider myself above the average, but the Fokker 190 is not exactly my kind of aircraft, if that makes any sense. But having some experience in evading is really useful in this thing, and it allows you to survive quite a long time. I've had multiple dogfights that lasted over 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 minutes, where I had multiple enemies on my ass and was able to hold out long enough for my teammates to reinforce me and support me. And once they do, that's when the real fun with the Fokker 190 begins. Say you have a friendly Fokker 190 nearby or even a BF-109, if you keep an eye out, if you pay attention to your teammate's position, you can absolutely wreck the opposition by doing just passes, simple bait and switches. Say you have these 2 Spitfires on your ass, you evade, you set up the shot for your teammate, he takes one down, all of a sudden you're 2 against 1. And that sole Spitfire, he can't really do anything against you. Because that's the thing. This aircraft sits in this weird sweet spot right now where it doesn't have to face the constant threat of Griffin engine Spitfires. It really sits at a good BR right now. It might be slightly too powerful when it gets down tier to 4.3, but this is just the general balance issue with War Thunder at this point. Of course, an aircraft like this is going to be always very powerful when it guns down tiers, but if it has to get up tiered again and face against Griffin Spitfires, then all of a sudden it gets kind of crappy and really underpowered, because the Griffin Spitfires will absolutely chew this thing up. But now, this current moment where it sits at a sweet spot in bat rating, it really can do a lot of damage. Now, how can you play this thing then? Now, I did spade this aircraft without using any of the golden eagles that Gaijin usually provides me. I really wanted to force myself to learn to play this aircraft first, force myself to learn the advantages, disadvantages, how the aircraft feels, what you can do with it. Of course, the first thing you have to do in a Fokker 190, especially given that you have a decent climb rate, is of course to climb. Now, unlike earlier Fokker 190s, this thing does not get an interceptor spawn, so you have to take off from the airfield, which means that you can occasionally run into Spitfires that are higher than you, but if you keep to the correct climbing speeds. Now, in this case, I did not use Kiwi's chart as I usually do. I just guessed and said it was around 260 km/h. Indicated airspeed, although I'll leave a link in the chart to the chart down below if you actually want to figure out the proper climbing speed to get the most efficient climb out of this. But around 260 km/h has been working fine for me. It gets up to altitude pretty fast. At altitude, this thing really shines, especially around 5,000 kilometers. 5 kilometers altitude. This thing really starts to show its advantages over the enemy, especially facing off against the Russians. The Russians will, of course, be a massive nuisance, but playing it correctly, you can definitely outspeed them, and that's really the strength of this aircraft. You may not be the best turning aircraft, you simply aren't. The thing is a bit sluggish by itself. Although, that said, the flaps are actually quite nice. Now, it doesn't get combat flaps, it only gets takeoff and landing flaps, but as long as you keep an eye out on your flaps and don't break them, you can actually use them quite effectively to even dogfight with Spitfires. I know, I'm sorry that I'm saying this, and I'm not recommending you to actually go ahead and turn fight with a Spitfire. What I am suggesting is NG fighting a Spitfire. If you have a Spitfire dive on you, for example, try and get him into an energy dab. And into an energy trap, not dab. Energy trap, bleed him off his speed, try and see if you can get him in front of your gun sights. Clever throttle control is definitely a big help with his aircraft, as well as clever flap control, just to pull your nose up just that much sharper to get your shots on target. Two MG151s aren't the best armament around. I do have to say the forest bombs that the Spitfires might get tend to be a little bit better. Although the Spitfires that is better, we don't really get forest bombs, but for example Tempest and stuff like that. You get the point. Forest bombs are still going to beat two MG151s. But being that the MG151s are mounted so close to the fuselage, as well as having the 13mm machine guns, for example, obviously, and given the overall accuracy of the guns, these guns are actually quite good at doing head-on attacks against Spitfires, as long as you keep your range and know when to evade. And thankfully, since the roll rate of this aircraft is so good, you can actually evade pretty damn easily. In fact, I've had shots where I shot out from around 2 kilometers distance, the enemy shot back at me, I did a simple roll, forced him to roll away as well. He probably was thinking that I was going to roll away, but since I rolled so incredibly quickly, I just rolled right back around and shot him down. Still in the head-on, he wasn't expecting that. So to recap the Fokker 490 D-9, it is not an aircraft for everyone. For the longest time it hasn't been an aircraft for myself. I just couldn't fly the Fokker 490s no matter which one. I think the only Fokker 490 I really liked was the very first one, because it just has cannons at a very low battle rating. But I could never get a playstyle down, because these things always felt like a bus compared to other much more nimble aircraft. But now they've kind of get the hang of it, now that they don't have to constantly face spiff and griff fires. This thing's actually really quite nice, and I have to say, if you want to get into the playstyle of the Fokker 490s, if you want to learn how to do anti-fighting, how to win dogfights without having the turn time advantage, essentially. If you want to do that, try out the Fokker 490. Right now. At 5.3 this thing is in a really nice battle rating. You might have some problems when you are stock, of course, because, well, aircraft that rely on speed generally suffer more from the stock syndrome. But once you upgrade, once you have those engine upgrades, dude, this thing is really nice. But those have just been my own experience with the 490 D9. I can already foresee a certain UK Octane writing in the comments how proud he is that I finally started playing Fokker 190s. For now. I haven't played the D12 yet. I'm just about to unlock it. I don't really have the D13 on this account. I might actually ask for that. Although the D13 is a 6.0 and as such will face jets, which makes things considerably harder. But maybe we'll see how it goes. Anyways, lads, actually, I'm going to ask you guys to suggest what aircraft do you want to see next. I haven't really played anything else. Maybe something new? I haven't really done the A26 review yet, have I? I said I was going to review all of the new patch vehicles. Didn't really do it. Maybe tanks. I haven't played tanks in a while either. I don't know, it's weird. I haven't really played War Thunder in like 3 days now. Essentially, since the April Fool's event, I just played Sim. But because I don't have a head tracking system, I haven't really been playing Sim all that much either, because there's not that much full efficiency. Speaking of which, I should actually get a head tracking system very soon, so expect some Sim videos coming out very soon as well. I still have to do the review of the joystick, of course. But on that, I really haven't been playing much War Thunder. It's been mostly Mass Effect. I've played 28 hours of Mass Effect in the space of 2 days. Yes, I am very healthy, thank you very much. Anyways, lads, this is going to be it for this video. In 2 days, it is my birthday, actually, on the 14th of April, so I'm probably going to get drunk then. And yeah, that means I'm not going to do any streams. Psycho Cat, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stream on my own birthday. I'm not that sad. Anyways, lads, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do leave it a like rating. If you want to see more aircraft videos, of course, leave me some suggestions in the comment section down below. And if you're new around here, hey, first of all, congratulations for sticking around until the end of the video, since you don't know me. And secondly, don't subscribe just yet. No, unsubscribe if you subscribed already. Go to the channel first, check out the other videos. If you like them, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We have broken 30,000 subscribers yesterday, which is a freaking amazing milestone. I know I haven't really celebrated it that much, or I don't really say it all that much, but thank you very much for being part of this community and making the channel what it is. But enough rambling around. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and as always, thank you for watching.
sky. Take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find